Think back to an uncomfortable moment. Take a minute. About race. Was it a bad racist joke? Was it an incident that you might have observed? Or maybe a situation that you participated in? What did you do? Why were you uncomfortable? What did you not do? I am here today to share with you an experience that I had as I walked through a segregated school as a principal. What made me uncomfortable? What I did to challenge systemic racism, and what I did not do that led to shame, humiliation, and the loss of a job that I loved, that I adored. But more importantly, I will share with you how this experience has given me the courage to stay engaged, even more so. And my hope is to shine a light today for you on ways that you will choose to be engaged when it's uncomfortable, when you are fearful, and when you don't know what to do. Nice building. It wasn't my school. But back in 2006, I was asked, and I took a position as a principal of a faltering urban high school. Like many around the country, people had given up hope. What does that look like? Dramatic decline in enrollment. The surrounding white neighborhood, less than 20% of those families even walked in that school. High suspensions and a culture of chaos. You can imagine, you've read it in the newspapers. Like most traditional schools, there was an array of courses, including college prep courses. Some of you might remember, okay, so you might have been in these courses. Advanced placement, college in the schools, honors courses. When I walked into those classes, what I saw was 100% often of those students were white. In a school where more than 80% of those students were not white. This was wrong. This was clear evidence of white privilege. White privilege, kind of makes us uncomfortable. So give me a minute, please. White privilege is not something that we do as white people. It's often something that we are not even aware of. And I liken it to a moving sidewalk, that we're on that moving sidewalk. You see it at the Minneapolis airport. And we're just on it, it's just happening. And in order to know that you're on that sidewalk, you kind of have to step out for a minute and look, have some consciousness. Or better yet, we have to actually turn against it, which we know is risky. We've seen kids do that. My kids have done it. Turn against that moving sidewalk. You might fall on your face. It takes some effort to become conscious and aware that we have privilege and that places like this are built on that. So, for the next 6 years, we decided to push against that. How are we going to do that? To engage all kids, not just a small percentage of kids. We got results, but it took some time. So the first thing we did, we integrated and revitalized the arts. How else do you get passion in students? How else do you give a student opportunity to have their voice? We saw it through the arts. We built a culture of inclusion as opposed to exclusion. That takes some time. We're used to punishing a student. We're actually used to, and I refer to this as restorative practice. What we do often is say, this is what you're going to get, as opposed to how do we work with students to take responsibility for their actions and have them repair harm. It changes the culture in a building when you move from punishment to repairing harm. And we created something called Honors for All. So some of you might think that's a trophy for everyone, and it's not. Let me explain. This is a traditional school. This is what it looks like. Most of us in this audience, many of us, took that regular, I'm just going to take 9th grade English. We took that regular 9th grade English class, right? We had a lot to do in school. We knew that we were okay. We're just going to take the regular class. Some of our classmates maybe Maybe it's closer to home, maybe it was us or people that we knew. Well, they were in that basic class. You need a little bit of help, right? And then there are those of you in the audience, and you know who you are, and you're saying, yeah, I was the one in that honors class. I was the one in that special class, right? That honors class. I need to be challenged. We refer to this as tracking. It's still occurring in our schools. And we decided we're going to do it differently. We're going to push against that because we want something called honors for all. Don't we talk about high expectations for all kids? Don't we talk about that all the time? What does that look like? What does high expectations for all kids look like? Well, it takes some work. It doesn't look like your normal class. I like to refer to as sit, get, and spit. It actually is personalized. Varied resources, varied curriculum. Teaching looks different. It does. And it looks different when we're all together learning. A little bit like today. There's a term that I learned this term when I was in Finland, and it's called relational equity. And I love this term because what this means is that every single student brings something to the table. We are going to honor you no matter if you're new to the country, new to the school, new to the language, no matter if how you look at the world is very different than mine because I live here and you live there. It creates the most dynamic learning. That's what Honors for All is. But of course, like many of you might be thinking, oh, that's an interesting idea, but that's not the way we've done business. And it's not. And many people at this school said, you know what, Ms. Cousins, Olivia's mom, she said to me, Ms. Cousins, Olivia's never been in an honors course. You're setting her up for failure. Don't do that. She's not going to get the support she needs. She's going to feel isolated. We're new to this community. That's not fair to her. Valid fear, very valid fear. She'd never walked in an honors class before. And then there's Christian's mom and dad, equally concerned. Christian had been in honors classes his whole life. Now all of a sudden, he's not in that special honors course. Everybody's in that. Is he going to get challenged? The bottom line question is he going to get in that college of his choice? What are you changing? Now remember, this is 9th grade English, right? In order to change this, it's going to take some time, isn't it? It's going to take some mistakes. It certainly is. It certainly is. And it did. We made plenty of mistakes. But there are many, many successes. Over the course of 6 years, that school that the neighbors didn't go to became a school of choice. It became a really exciting place to be. In dramatic, I need to say dramatic, increase in participation in the arts, in attendance, graduation. We made some gains that were really incredible. I liken this also to a flywheel. I said to the staff at first, flywheel, it just kind of ekes along and then it takes a few years to get it rolling. Well, after 5 years, we felt we were rolling. Not perfect, but we were rolling. It goes to almost a doubling of enrollment in that period of time. Still pushing against a racially biased system that was built on that privilege that we were exposing. What happened? Blank slide. So, beautiful day, like today. Today's gorgeous, isn't it? Beautiful day. 6 weeks prior to the largest graduation that I had experienced, I get a phone call at home that says, Ms. Cousins, do not return to that school. Ever. Phone call at home. Now this is a phone call, and then a memo, and then the media. Now my hair wasn't quite this cute 6 years ago. It was like big and ugly. And it was all over the media in a community that I lived in. All over the media. So it was a big deal. It was a very big deal. Why? Was my first question. I was told almost nothing except that I was not being disciplined. How curious. What I found out was that honors for all was not acceptable. It was too big of a push. school board, some district staff, some parents. I was told to literally reverse course. Go from honors to all, back to honors for some. Well, I've learned, but I refused. I refused. I lost. People protested. I lost. But more importantly, honors lost. Institutional racism on that day won. So what did I do? I'm going to keep this dark slide up for just a second, because what I did was not very pretty. I hid, you know. It's really shaming. I think some of you are thinking, oh my God, you go from a high school principal to like a what? And it was shameful. It really was. I'm just going to tell you that. It was hard. It was my community. I grew up in that community. That was tough. But you know what? My loving family who are here today and are still with me through all of this really helped me stay engaged. And what I've learned is given me even more. And it's true. So here I am 3 years later, and that same district has invited me to come back. The one that I pushed against and lost has invited me to come back. So why did I say yes, and what have I learned? And that's what I hope to share with you today, okay? This is what I learned, and let me tell you, I am still learning every single day. The bridge. The bridge is for building a common ground. And how do you do that? Those of you that know me, I'm learning this even more about myself. I am not patient, but it takes patience. It takes patience, and it takes learning more about the resistance than you think you need to learn. And then you need to build that common ground. What was the common ground in my story? All parents want the best for their child. All parents want the best. Resistance. When you push against the status quo of that big, beautiful building that you saw at the beginning, there will always be resistance. Expect it. I didn't expect quite that much in that manner, but expect it. And this is what I've learned. Standing with my integrity has been the most important thing for me, as opposed to standing against somebody else's thoughts, beliefs, or actions. And the other thing I've learned that is really, it really weighs heavy with me, and that is we need to make space for people to speak their truth. We really do. So sometimes being engaged means keeping our traps shut. Being engaged sometimes really means listening deeper, listening different. And if someone says to me, you're not listening, I'm not. So will you do me a favor? Think back at that moment right now. Just grab it. Grab that moment. What was that uncomfortable moment? Can you create a common ground? Do you know how to stand with your integrity with that? And can you keep your yapper shut just a little bit longer in order to listen differently? I hope you can, because for me, I am more engaged than ever. We have a lot to do in this country in regards to race, don't we? So after I got let go, oops, I gotta change hands. Some parents gave me this quote on a bracelet that I wear every day. And you can read it to yourself, and I'll read it with you, right? What lies behind us and what lies before us are tiny matters compared to what lies within us. Ralph Waldo Emerson. Thank you.